So you got your product into production. You've done the hard work of finding the manufacturer. You made the formulation. If it's a supplement product, you designed the product, done everything. Now it's time to get it listed on Amazon or TikTok Shop and turn on the money printer, right? So you go, you apply for TikTok Shop, you apply for Amazon, you put in all your documentation, you have your listing photos ready, you've done all the hard work, months of painstaking work, and boom, the next day you get an email from Amazon telling you your application has been rejected, or an email from TikTok telling you that we're sorry, we reviewed your documents, but you didn't get approved. This is every brand owner's nightmare, getting all the inventory ready, paying for everything up front, and when it comes time to selling and making their money back, the platforms don't even give you a chance. And this is the biggest thing that kills brands, because what it does is it kills your momentum. It kills everything you've built. Now, you've gone through the waiting period, you're ready to start putting in the work, you're ready to start getting sales, and you're ready to start stacking paper. But the platforms won't let you because you haven't prepared right, you haven't had everything set up before you launch, and that kills more brands than anything else. Losing momentum when you need it the most. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to time it perfectly, how to avoid losing momentum, and most importantly, if you do get hit with bans, how to navigate it in a way that doesn't kill your momentum. And the first problem is most people will leave setting up the platforms towards the end. And that is the biggest mistake you can make, because while your product is getting manufactured, while it's being shipped to the warehouses, you need to have everything up and running. Whether you're running Facebook ads, you need to have your Shopify store and your Facebook ads account up and running, warmed up. If you're listing on TikTok Shop and Amazon, you need to make sure that both of your platform accounts are up and approved and there isn't any issues there. Because the worst thing that can happen to you when you're ready to sell is getting hit with the ban hammer, and now you have to spend weeks going back and forth with Amazon and TikTok Shop trying to get your account reinstated. And that is a very painful process. I know this because I've been going through the same exact issue for the last 30 days. Now, the good thing is we stayed ahead of this. We've had multiple products approved on Amazon and TikTok Shop. We've had multiple bans, so we know what to expect. And so we started the approval process about 45 days ago while the product was still not ready. It was still being designed. It was still getting manufactured so that we have everything ready for launch day. Now, the first mistake is not getting started early enough. You want to make sure that you get started with the approval process at least 30 to 45 days before your product is ready or before your launch day is set, because if there are any document issues, if there are any appeals that you need to send, you can get those over with and have the accounts ready. Now, the second thing is, let's talk about why your account gets rejected in the first place. You have to understand that these platforms go through thousands and hundreds of thousands of sellers. Amazon has millions of sellers on there, and so they can't have a person manually review every account. So a lot of the times there are AI detection algorithms that will go through the information you provide. It will go through databases of information about your company, your ID, and then it will cross-reference that. So you want to make sure that the information you're submitting is the exact information that's on a paper trail of your document. That means if you're using bank statements, make sure that your address is the exact same as it is on the bank statement. If you're submitting tax IDs, make sure that it is the exact tax ID. Make sure that your name spelling is correct, the address is correct, and the company ownership information is correct. This is what screwed us multiple times over the last 30 days, because the way that we structured our company is a subsidiary company, a parent company owns multiple brand companies. And so I was registering the Amazon and I was registering the TikTok Shop under the subsidiary company, which technically is owned by the parent company instead of me directly. And so when I submitted my information, I got hit with a ban hammer saying that there were inconsistencies in registration information. Now, I got that sorted. I'm going to be telling you exactly how to get it sorted if you do get hit with a ban hammer, but you want to avoid it in the first place. And if you're just starting out and you want to keep things simple, you want to do a simple LLC structure. That means you own the LLC directly and you can just submit your individual information and you should be good to go. That's how we did a few brands, and we haven't had any issues on the account level with those, but this one had issues. And I'm going to be telling you exactly how we got around to solving that. So make sure that your documents are correct. You submit the right bank statements, you submit the right tax IDs. But for some reason, if TikTok needs more information, you want to give them as much information as possible. So what I did for Amazon, because Amazon couldn't verify my ownership of the company, I made a whole PDF of all the documentation from the tax ID that I submitted the IRS, from the company registration and ownership documents to my personal passport, my ID. I put it in one PDF and then sent it over to Amazon. And after a few tries, I went through support, I contacted a few people, I was able to give them enough information to get my account reinstated. Same thing with TikTok Shop, but what's worse with TikTok Shop is that the account got banned banned after it was approved. And this is all the more reason why you need to make sure that you set these things up before you launch, because it might initially get approved, but the second AI check might cause it to get banned. And the only way to get it reinstated is through a manual review, a manual approval, where they review it and they tell the system that it's good to go. After that, we haven't had any issues. So if you do get hit with a ban hammer, make sure to go through the email line by line to understand what exactly are they asking for. And whatever they're asking for, give them 50% more information. So for example, they ask for ownership documents. Instead of just giving them like one document that shows your name with the LLC, give them a whole paper trail of documents. This is the best way of avoiding any further issues, any further checks, and just getting it reinstated. And we had to go through a few emails because we weren't submitting enough documentation. And finally, when I submitted everything in a very clear paper trail, I included a letter explaining exactly the ownership structure of the company that we had. That is what got my account reinstated. So make sure that everything line by line is exactly what's on your documents, and make sure you submit it to Amazon, and make sure you submit it through the proper channels. Usually support won't really be helpful with a lot of these big platforms, because there are way bigger fish that they have to tend to instead of a new seller starting a new account on the platform. Now, if you're a seller outside the US and you're trying to get on TikTok Shop, there might be certain things you need to navigate. There's a lot of people that we know that sell if they're not based in the US. And if you have any specific questions on how to avoid any issues with registration, if you're outside the US, you can DM me on my Instagram, which is in the description, and I can help you out there. Now, the second thing, if you've got your account approved, everything looks good to go, is the listing level issue. Now, this is very common for pretty much every product. Everyone I know has had their listings taken down on TikTok Shop. It is very unfortunate, and it is something you have to overcome if you want to succeed in this business. Now, I'm going to be giving you the exact elements that you need to have on your product label to make sure that you don't get hit with a ban. And to do this, I'm going to be grabbing one of our products and showing you exactly the issues that we faced and how we were able to resolve it. So right here, I have Leverage MetaMix. This is a product that is currently on TikTok Shop. And one of the issues and one of the reasons why our listing got taken down is if you look at the packaging for the product, you can see it says supports male hormones. Now, testosterone related products and hormone related products are a bit controversial on these platforms, similar to weight loss products. And if you can avoid selling them in the first place, then that is the best thing you can do. And to understand what these platforms don't and don't want, there is a whole guide blog on the TikTok Shop Help Center that shows exactly which products are prohibited on the platform. And my recommendation to you guys would be to avoid those products, because they will just give you more trouble. Or another way is to kind of spin the angle in a way that is not prohibited. For example, what we did with MetaMix is, because MetaMix has a assortment of different benefits and features, we highlighted the ones that were compliant on TikTok Shop and kept the other ones low key and did not really promote them. So I would avoid putting any statements like this, like supports male hormones, on your packaging. Now, the word supports is fine because it is not making a claim, but just because of the word hormones, our product was considered a testosterone booster, and for that reason the AI flagged it and a few of our listings were taken down. Now, if you do have a product that is not compliant and you're trying to make it compliant for TikTok Shop, and if you need help with how to do that, you can DM me on my Instagram in the description, and I can help you understand the TikTok Shop policies and how to safely navigate them without any future risk of bans for your products. Now, one thing I've also been noticing a lot of products do is that they remove the claims entirely from their label, and what they do is they'll add the claims to the listing image. So they'll have a picture of their product and it'll just have the ingredients. For example, this has shilajit, so it'll just say shilajit on the front and mushrooms on the front, and then in the listing image as text they'll add the other text, because you can have that appeal. Let's say your listing gets taken down, you can have that appeal by changing the product images, but you can't really change the packaging if you place a massive order. So you want to get ahead of that. Now, the second thing you need to keep your label compliant is making sure that there is a full supplement facts at the back of your product, and you want to make sure that this supplement fact follows the FDA guidelines. Now, I'm going to be dropping a link in the description for the FDA guidelines, so make sure that when you're making your supplement fact sheet, you are following those guidelines, because it will just make the approval process easier. TikTok Shop requires you to submit a picture of your supplement facts when you're submitting a supplement product, and if you're not running a supplement product, then this shouldn't be an issue for you. The third thing, and this is a newer thing, is directions for use. So right at the bottom we have directions for use. You can have suggested use or directions for use. Both terminology is fine, just make sure that it is on on your label. And the last thing is making sure that there is a company address on there. So if your product, for example, ours is called Leverage LLC, you want to make sure that the Leverage address is at the bottom and it shows that this product was manufactured for and distributed by Leverage. And you want to make sure that that is on the packaging, clearly legible, so that when you do submit your product pictures, your product doesn't get denied. So those are some of the things that are looked at when you're submitting a product for both Amazon and TikTok. And those are pretty standard across supplements. You want to make sure that you keep those in mind when you're designing your product. And if you have placed an order and you're looking for help on getting it compliant, then again, drop me a message and I can help you with ways on how to safely navigate any bans and get your product up without any issues. So just recapping that the main way of getting your supplement products rejected is by not having the certain elements that TikTok Shop requires, like the company address, the supplement facts on their label. The second one is putting any claims on there that TikTok doesn't like, because you cannot claim to be curing a disease or some kind of issue. You need to make sure that the language you use doesn't claim anything. So instead of saying cures XYZ, you should just say supports skin health or supports glowing skin, along those lines. One way of determining whether or not your packaging violates any issues is by putting the TikTok Shop's prohibited products and supplement label guidelines into ChatGPT and then putting your text from your manufacturing label on there and asking ChatGPT if it breaks any policies. And make sure that you use words that don't directly claim to cure illnesses and instead use words like supports, manages, that don't make any claims but also suggest the benefits that your product may or may not have. I'll be dropping a few resources in the description that you can take a look at and review to understand what kind of claims to put on your label and what to avoid any issues with these platforms. Now, the last way, and this is the most unfortunate way of you getting banned, is if these platforms decide to change their policies and a new category gets put into the prohibited products list. Now, I had to mention the specific example because this recently happened with some mouth tape brands. Now, mouth tape was a big thing until recently, but Amazon decided it was too dangerous for their customers and decided to pull the whole category from Amazon. So a lot of the listings that were advertised as mouth tape were now removed, even though they had thousands of reviews and they were doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in sales. Amazon decided to pull the plug on them and now they can get listed on the platform. So if this happens to you, there's two things you need to understand. One, you're building on rented real estate. This platform doesn't belong to you. You can be pulled anytime. Even though these are very lucrative channels, you want to make sure that you diversify enough so that if one channel gets shut down, your business doesn't crumble overnight. So that's the first lesson. And the second thing is being creative with how you advertise it. Now, a lot of these mouth tape brands are now advertising their product as finger tape for golf, I believe. If you just look up mouth tape or like look up finger tape, the picture's still depicted as mouth tape, but they're pretty creative with how they advertise it so that their listing stays up and doesn't get taken down. Now, again, if you're doing something that's against these platforms' policies, it will come to bite you one way or another. So it is just better to avoid that than to circumvent any of these. But this is where creativity comes into play, and people have made a lot of money, especially new brands, because all the big brands were taken down if they were selling mouth tape. And so a lot of these new brands were pretty creative with how they made a quick bag off of Amazon doing that. So if that happens to you, the best thing to do is be creative in the short term to make sure that you don't lose all the momentum, but always understand that you need to be diversifying your product range. You need to be diversifying the channels that you build on, because you don't want your business to crumble overnight because you're only relying on one channel. Now, these are some of the things that I've learned after having many products taken down, having a lot of accounts get banned or get hit with some kind of violation, and we were able to weather the storm. And that brings me to my last point, which is if you want to win in this game, not only do you need to understand why your product gets banned, you need to be resilient, but also need to be up to date with a lot of these policies, because if you are going to be building on another platform, the least you could do is stay up to date with policies and go through their prohibited products list. Talk to other people that are selling the same industry as you to make sure that you guys stay compliant, because it is way harder to get a listing reinstated than it is to avoid getting it banned in the first place. So make sure you're proactive with that kind of stuff. Make sure that you are looking, you're not testing the AI algorithms too much by teetering on the edge of compliancy and non-compliancy. And you want to make sure that you are more creative with your marketing angles than you are with your listing, because the listing can stay the same, but if you market it creatively, you're still driving traffic, and that does 90% of the job. So those are some of my main points on how to not lose momentum, how to stay compliant on these platforms, but also if you do get banned, how to get around it relatively quickly. And believe me, if you avoid these things, you will avoid a lot of pain and you will avoid a lot of lost time and momentum that can be used in building your brand and making a bag. So if you guys enjoyed this video and found it valuable, drop a like. If you want more content like this, drop me a comment so I know that you guys appreciate the kind of stuff. If you have any questions about compliancy, getting your listing up, any specific Amazon or TikTok shop related questions, my Instagram is in the description. You can shoot me a DM and I can help you on there. So guys, thanks for watching. New vlogs are gonna be coming out soon. We wanna make sure that we document every part of building this new brand and getting it to $1 million a month. So stay tuned on that and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.